today over illegal appointments she allegedly made for several positions inside the village, among them.
Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and
If Tiffany Henyard is a gifted actor and this stage of her career hasn't let her down, her reign as super mayor may be almost over. But she's currently at the center of one of the most dramatic political collapses. Her administration's growing scandals and legal issues, along with her unexpected loss in the most recent Democratic caucus, are the reasons Illinois has seen this in a long time.
The judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking her from making those appointments without approval from.
Hundreds of people on a chilly December night in Homewood, Illinois, braved the cold by forming a line outside the Homewood Floss Moore Park District Auditorium while wearing heavy jackets and scarves. The crowd was growing, which was evidence of the high stakes that were ahead, and the atmosphere was charged with excitement as locals, political insiders, and onlookers gathered for the first Thorne Township Democratic caucus in over 30 years. The atmosphere inside the auditorium was even more charged. This was no ordinary. Rather than being a political event, it was a turning point in the township's history, and the focus of attention was Tiffany Henyard, the controversial mayor and township supervisor. Henyard saw the event as an existential struggle to hold onto her political position and fend off the growing threats that threatened to take her power. As the evening went on, the tension was evident, and the drama was heightened by side glances. Whispers, who is known for her talent for showmanship, showed up in a striking pink pantsuit, exuding confidence that seemed measured and defiant. But as the evening went on, cracks in her armor emerged, and she was accused of voting suppression and rule bending. Henyard also accused her political rival, State Senator Napoleon Harris, who is also the head of the Thorne Township Democratic Committee, of orchestrating the event to disadvantage her, claiming that Harris had stopped her supporters from mentoring, allowing only his allies to do so, and that his actions had already determined her fate before the caucus even began. Henyard lost the party's nomination for township supervisor by a unanimous vote in just 7 minutes, a devastating and humiliating setback for the once unstoppable supermayor. The auditorium was mocked as the caucus process, which was very structured and apparently followed set procedures, failed to persuade the audience to accept the intense feelings of the evening. Shouts and jubilant chanting broke out as the results were revealed, and some guests even sang the customary farewell. She kissed him goodbye and hurried out of the gathering at the end of the night, vowing to sue everyone involved. Her political empire had clearly suffered a catastrophic hit, and she was obviously frustrated and worried about what was ahead.
I've said for a while, it's like, grassroots. It was organic when a lot of this things started at the township, where the people were, just showing their display.
An obvious buzz of excitement filled the packed auditorium as 600 people gathered for the Thornton Township Democratic Caucus, which had not been held in over 30 years. Supporters of Thornton Township Democratic Common and State Senator Napoleon Harris arrived early and grabbed seats, creating a wall of unity and excitement. However, when things took a drastic turn, tensions were already rising, and many of Mayor Tiffany Henyard's allies were left outside the already Henyard. The troubled mayor, who is known for being reasonable, was furious as she strode into the room after buses carrying her supporters arrived late. Her outrage and aggravation were evident in every step she took, and her voice reverberated throughout the tense room as she leveled accusations of injustice. She claimed that the striking pink suit she was wearing was illegal, and she launched a direct attack on what she claimed was a deliberate attempt to sabotage her campaign. During the clash between Mater's charges and applause from Harris's camp, the already tense room turned into a verbal battleground as the caucus continued, with organizers claiming that the event was conducted in accordance with the rules and emphasizing that eager attendees had already packed the auditorium to attend. Harris called the entire caucus a charade meant to undermine her leadership and candidature, and accused him of plotting to exclude her supporters. Capacity, but Henyard would not have any of it, citing last-minute rule changes that invalidated her ticket on technical grounds like the absence of a professional assessor. As she left the stage, the weight of defeat hung heavy on her shoulders. forcing her to face the reality that her influence was waning and that the tides of public opinion had shifted dramatically against her. The news further fueled the spectacle as spectators joyfully sang "Nah, nah, hey, hey, kiss and goodbye," mocking Henyard in a symbolic and public disapproval.
Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who was appointed to that position tonight, lost her bid for the Democratic Party's nomination in this rare...
Formerly a symbol of goal setting, given her declining popularity and a climate that is becoming more hostile toward her leadership style, Tiffany Henyard's chances of running for re-election under the Democratic flag have been severely harmed by her loss of the party's candidacy. A write-in candidacy is a long shot that is practically impossible. However, not long ago, Henyard seemed to be on track for success as the Thorin Township Supervisor, one of the most lucrative local government positions in Illinois, earning over $200,000 a year. Her tenure has become a source of disagreement. Accusations of corruption, careless spending, and controlling leadership have contributed to her shocking demise, turning her administration into a chaotic case study. His administration has been described as turbulent, with village and township meetings frequently turning into heated arguments complete with raised voices and absent trustees who completely skip sessions. Critics have accused Henyard of using public funds as a personal piggy bank to pay for lavish travel, lavish dinners, and even an $85,000 show that was so poorly attended that it only served to highlight the decline in public confidence. Critics of Henyard's argue that the absence of transparency and accountability at these meetings is a sign of her administration's dysfunction is worse. Although residents and political analysts are speculating about the potential outcomes of the investigation, which centers on allegations of financial mismanagement and misuse of public funds, Henyard's ability to evade accountability and regularly place the blame on her political rivals hasn't helped her win over Dalton's irate residents. The threat of an FBI investigation has further eroded trust in her leadership, adding to the chaos. Henyard remains unyielding despite a number of scandals, portraying herself as a victim of political sabotage and attempting to shift the emphasis to one of tenacity in the face of adversity while her neighbors are growing increasingly distant. This image makes me feel. She put up billboards around Dalton with slogans like "The People's Choice" and "Keeping My Promises," which many saw as meaningless platitudes in the face of a growing crisis. Instead of addressing the town's crippling debt and crumbling infrastructure, locals have become more vocal in their dissatisfaction with her administration, which has come to represent dysfunction due to accusations of squandering township resources for private benefit and creating a hostile work environment. Her handling of town funds has also generated controversy, with some cases of misappropriation being noted as particularly egregious under an administration that they say is more focused on appearances than on actual accomplishment. As the town's finances were examined more closely, the $85,000 performance that was held throughout that time is a glaring example of priorities that are not in line. Outrage from the public over such instances only increased. Despite being accused of destroying Dalton's financial future, Henyard continues to present herself as a devoted public servant who is being unfairly singled out by political rivals. The gravity of Henyard's situation is demonstrated by the Democratic Party's decision to deny her the nomination following a contentious caucus in which Henyard accused her political rival, Illinois State Senator Napoleon Harris, of rigging the proceedings to prevent her from receiving enough votes. She took a historic step, but Harris' team insisted that everything was handled fairly and blamed her dismissal on her waning popularity and questionable leadership. The caucus' outcome, a resounding rejection of Henyard's re-election campaign, was a turning point that indicated her declining power even among Democratic mainstays. Harris's supporters celebrated the vote, while Henyard saw the loss as a humiliating public sitting back. Been anything but accommodating. Despite these setbacks, she has doubled down on accusations of unfair treatment and sabotage and threatened legal action. But this posturing hasn't really changed public opinion. It's clear that Henyard's aggressive approach has turned off potential supporters and strengthened her critics, many of whom see her downfall as a necessary correction. The destiny of the town, despite her prior successes, the Henyard administration has primarily created political theater and financial mismanagement, leaving Dalton at a crossroads today. Promising signs of revolutionary change when the consequences of her loss of nomination and the ongoing FBI investigation continue to unfold, it's unclear if Dalton will be able to move past the turmoil of her term. For Henyard, whose political career once seemed destined for greater heights, atonement appears increasingly unlikely as it is overshadowed by a legacy marked by turmoil and controversy. Perhaps the tale of Tiffany Henyard's leadership serves as a cautionary tale about how unchecked power can destroy even the most promising individuals. Since she was terminated, even if Thoron Township has been more outspoken in its criticism of Henyard for putting her own interests ahead of the community's, Tiffany and her associates must still be charged and prosecuted for government corruption at public gatherings. Henyard has made repeated attempts to portray herself as the victim of a political plot that only served to aggravate the villagers. Despite her charges that her opponents are stealing democracy and suppressing the will of the people, detractors contend that her rhetoric is actually a tactic to divert attention from her lengthy history of scandals. As one commenter put it, it's a dramatic turnabout for Henyard, who was once regarded as a young leader with promise. When she first took office, Henyard positioned herself as a reformer who would clean up local government and put residents first, but her tenure has been marked by allegations of financial mismanagement, questionable hiring practices, and a lack of transparency for many. But as one Thoron resident put it, everyone uses the same justification whenever she is called out, but eventually you have to accept accountability for your own behavior. As a private investigator, I have some knowledge of the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, which has added to the disenchantment of the community. The revelation that the Henyard administration had spent more than $100,000 on travel expenses, fine dining, while there have been numerous complaints that the township's youth and elderly programs were underfunded, Henyard's leadership of the Caucus has also come under fire, and her team's disarray played a significant role in her defeat. Critics noted that many of the elderly people she busted were late and had difficulty entering the venue. One observer questioned how someone could lead a township when they couldn't even control their supporters. Her credibility was further tarnished by this logistical error, which also gave her opponents more grounds to question her abilities. However, her remaining supporters have been outspoken in defending her leadership, claiming that political opponents who are, according to a caucus participant, those who are determined to see her fail have unfairly singled her out, and some of her former supporters are starting to doubt her ability to bounce back from the growing scandals and legal issues. Critics contend that the sheer volume of scandals surrounding Tiffany Henyard's suspected misuse of township resources to fund her political campaign made her fall inevitable, and she was late for tonight's Dalton Village Board meeting. The most damaging charges against her at the caucus include her personal spending and her use of township buses to bring supporters to the event, which her opponents deemed unethical. Lori in the first. Mayor Tiffany Henyard said she had done nothing wrong, but at Tuesday night's village board meeting, Henyard issued a 30-day provisional appointment. She denied the charges in a special interview before the caucus, calling them political assaults. This came after Lightfoot's investigation into Dalton's financial activities revealed that she had accumulated tens of thousands of dollars in questionable expenses, including an astounding $43,000 on Amazon in a single day. The AL County Court reversed a portion of her debt. Although not everyone agrees with Henry's testimony, legal experts and political analysts have mostly rejected her charges of injustice, pointing out that the caucus proceeded, recognized procedures, the procedure was followed, and the anticipated result was obtained. She went on to say that Harris had rigged the CALA process to ensure his success, saying that even Henyard supporters seemed to be losing faith in her after the event, with some doubting her ability to govern in the face of such mayhem because they couldn't get in, and she became harassed after arriving late. One attendee claimed that some neighbors were confused because there were 2 agendas and 2 meetings in different locations, but the village hall wasn't well organized. Henyard's tenure ends, and a new chapter begins with Harris ready to take over after the caucus. Henyard made a passionate speech in which she referred to the procedure as unfair and unlawful and said she would contest the outcomes. The meeting was called off after a short period of time, and it appears that her future is becoming more and more uncertain due to legal concerns indicated by the FBI investigation, numerous lawsuits, and the ongoing investigation by the Illinois Attorney General. Some believe she may face criminal charges in the future, and others think she may file for bankruptcy because of the many lawsuits she is defending Thorne Township in, especially if investigators find evidence of financial malfeasance. Although her following is waning, some have pledged to put her name on the ballot in the April election, and some residents are wary, doubting whether Harris or any politician for that matter can actually influence meaningful change, while many others are hopeful that the township, her political career, is now a shining example of how scandal and the thirst for power can clash, putting a once promising leader into a tailspin. May has finally recovered from the chaos and restored faith in the local government. As one commenter so eloquently stated, the people have spoken, and Tiffany Henyard is no longer there. Therefore, let's hope that this marks the start of significant change for Thorne Township. Will she be able to make amends and return to politics, or will this be the end of a controversial and scandalous career? The Henyard case raises significant issues about accountability, leadership, and the role of public confidence in local government. To stay up to date on this incredible story, please subscribe.